A show that tackles the big issues affecting the BVI and the rest of the Caribbean. Searches for answers to today's big questions and gives viewers a unique perspective on developing stories. Follow the big story with me, Kathy Richards, only on GTV. This is The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards. I want to thank you so much for joining us for this edition. Well, we are well into that season. The season many call the talking season, but it's a season where the people, the voting population of this territory gets that opportunity to decide who they wish to have lead the causes of this territory. So with me today, we have the chairman of the Progressive Virgin Islands Movement, Mr. Ronnie W. Skelton, no stranger to the political arena here in the Virgin Islands. Thank you so much for being on The Big Story today, sir.
Cody, thanks for having me.
All right. We want to take a little, just a little peek into who Ronnie W. Skelton really is. For many of us, we only remember you as the minister from I think it was 2011 to 2018,
Yeah,
2019, thereabout. But you go back well into the history of this territory when it comes to being a legislator. And I was really taken aback. I did not take time before now to really read and understand who Ronnie W. Skelton is in this regard. You went back as far as being the deputy chief minister of this territory. Give us a little background as to you in that role.
Thanks, Cody. You know, I entered politics in 1999, and we were successful in the sense we weren't successful in being the government, but we were the best opposition this country has ever seen. And at the next election, the people overwhelmingly elected us. And I was the deputy chief minister at that time, Minister of Finance. I think it's the first time that the Minister of Finance was not the premier in this country. And then at the next election, we were fired. And then we came back, and 4 years after, we served for another 2 terms. Where we did a lot of stuff in the country to put the country on a solid footing for economic development, social development, educational development. And I believe we did a good job while we were there. And like everything else, sometimes people get tired and lose the way. But if I have to look back on those times, we were following on the trend of H. Lafferty Stout, whose birthday we celebrated yesterday, which was a very good celebration. And he was one of the person I looked to, H. Lafferty Stout. We used to talk a lot. We used to meet us on what we refer to as the University of Skelton Corner. And we sit there, and he will come and we'll chat with him, and he encouraged us to do what's good for the country. So shortly after that, I went to college, came back, and I was the general manager after about 2 years of working as distribution engineer. And I ran it for quite a number of years. And I retired in 1998 after a major illness. And then shortly after that, I got involved into politics after my doctors gave me the green light that I can do whatever I want except practice for the Olympics, which I had no desire of doing. And I believe, Kathy, one of the things that I try to do is leave the place better than when I first met it. And I'm sure there are people out there that can give testimonials that that's what I did. Every place I go, I try to, especially younger people, to encourage them to do the best they can in the interest of the country. Mm-hmm. I know we all have personal ambition, but without the country, I think we do have a problem. And there is a saying that wherever your treasures are, that's where your heart will be. And everything I have is here. I don't have any place else to go. So BVI is it for me, you know.
And from a very early age, you decided that, BVI is home for you because
Yes.
you went off to study, like we were discussing before we
Yeah.
get on here. You were pursuing other careers, and you decided that, this is not what I really want to do because I want to be home. Talk to us a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
I in college, I went to Tuskegee, Alabama, historically black university college at that time. And I got studying nuclear engineering. It was a very interesting topic. And it had my interest for a while. But when I really realized that I want to go back home to help my country, nuclear engineering ain't gonna be it. So I stopped and I came back home. And I think I made significant contributions to the development of electricity in this country. And I showed again, the people who worked with me and who worked for me will tell you that, I was not bad.
You weren't bad, and you're still not bad.
I still not bad.
And do you think that is one of the reasons you were pursued to return to contest the elections this year?
I think that's it. I just was coming in here, and a young man stopped me and asked and said, Mr. Skelton, we need you to manage the affairs of the country. I said, and he was talking quite a bit. And I said to him, I will try. And here I am on the big story, trying to get people to understand that it's not about Ronnie Skelton, it's about the country. Without a country, we have a problem. The wars were started where people were fighting for country. And right there in Israel and Palestine, you see, that's what they're fighting for a country. So I don't think we need to go to that extent, but I think with the amount of people we have educated in this country, for a small country like this, we spend, if I have to go back to the 1980s or even the mid 1970s, we spent hundreds of millions of dollars educating our people. And it was not just our people were educated. So we have workers coming to our country and they have children, we educate them also. Because we passed a law that no child with school age child should be not in school. And that's a law in the country. So we had to build schools and stuff to educate everybody. And I think for a small country, we did a good job. Yes, there are problems, like everything else. There are problems that we will have to try to eliminate as we go along, depending on how severe those problems are. But we will always have problems. If people believe that we could live in this world without problems, I don't know how they're going to get it done, But for every time and every season, some of the problems need to be eliminated so people can go forward,
One of the things that I could recall back following the 2015 elections, I think it was, there was this resounding call for Ronnie W. Skelton to assume the position of Minister of Finance. Help us to understand your background a little more in that field.
Kathy, there are some skill sets that I have acquired. And whenever something confronts me, like the management of electricity, where you have to deal with human resources, finance, you had to deal with all the social problems that exist in an organization, I make it my business to go and get short courses and study and try to understand some of the stuff. So I guess that part of finance came from managing the Electricity Corporation, where I was the general manager and a director, one of the directors of the board. So I had no choice but to prepare myself. I went all the way to the University of Singapore to a top management conference. I went up into England, to the States to learn different systems. How do you manage these things, and what are the key components of being a manager in these areas? So I think that's where I developed the skill from. I believe you must spend money and you must try to get value for money. And when you're dealing with the public purse, it's even more difficult because you should be accountable and transparent and let people know the systems that you're managing these things under have some level of integrity in them so they feel comfortable. There will still be people saying they're not fair, it's not this, but whenever you get a complaint, you look at the system and you try to correct if there is something to correct. But that skill set came from electricity and then running my family business. My father died in 1983. My 12 brothers and my mother.
12 brothers, you just said.
12 brothers and sisters, sorry.
Oh.
Including me. Sorry. That's not good. I leave up my four sisters. But my 12 brothers and sisters the 3 passed on. Now we got the 9 of us. They had confidence in me because I guess I was just started working at electricity. And they appointed me as one of the administrators and the lead person, so to speak, in the thing. And my brother Jahphix and I, we started talking about how can we make sure my mother doesn't have a need for anything.
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
Your mother give you unconditional love, and you want to make sure there's nothing that she wants that she can't get. And I think that's what we try to accomplish. And I think we did a fairly good job as a family making sure that happened. But so I went to run my family business, and again, you don't have a lot of resources, so you're trying to make as much of the resources that you have work for the family, not for Ronnie Skelton, but everything is about making sure individuals get their fair share of what is supposed to happen. And fair share means we share equally, not because I work and I lead, I must take
most of it.
No, I don't think that is right. So, I think that skill from finance came from there, where you use monies in a responsible way, but you try to get as much as possible for the country. During those times when I was Minister of Finance, we were able to buy back about $20 million worth of lands for the people of the Virgin Islands. We were able to give taxi drivers to redo their fleet, at least to replace one vehicle a year and stuff like that. We were able to give the $10,000 tax-free that you get at the beginning of the year. We were able to give that to you because we were managing the monies fairly and not just a group of individuals. But how can we get the resources of the country to as many people as possible? And I think that's what we accomplish, and that's where I think as I grow into this stuff, that's where I get the financial abilities from. It's not that I am I'm sure there are other people who are much better than I am at it, but I try to make sure that the resources are used for the the benefit of the people who it's for, and not just for individuals.
From where you sit now, how do you see the territory, the state of the territory's finances?
Well, that's a good question, Kathy, because not even the people in the opposition, or even the what you call it, the government, the unity government. Mm-hmm. I don't think many of them, 99% of them, know what is the finances of the country. I don't know if you know, because I haven't heard the numbers. So we're in a bad place, you know, because we're spending lots of money, but we don't know what we have. We don't know what our obligations are. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And until you know what those obligations are, you really can't say whether or not you have money, you know. I know I heard talks about the NHI is going to bankrupt the country, but you know, when the NHI was started, Kathy, the whole system was studiable for 5 years. And it wasn't studied by Ronnie Skelton. It wasn't something I pick up and went and say, hey, this is what we should do. This was studied by the economic unit of the University of the West Indies. Some of the brighter minds of the West Indies advise us on how we should do it. And whenever they come, they make presentations, we ask questions, and they collect data, and they look at the system, and they finally come, this is the model. And we ask questions, and when we were satisfied that they were convinced that the model can work, we implement it. But it has an obligation on the government to play their part. The government, based on the laws of the country, have made decisions that everybody over 65 could get medical attention free at the hospital. Every school-age child, medical attention free. Police officers,
nurses as well?
Prison officers, nurses. I might miss some. Mm-hmm. But there's a huge pool of people that can access healthcare free of charge. The system was set up that these people costs will be borne by the government. Mm. So the government we used to spend I think $25–30 million a year in healthcare. And as the country grows, in that time it was 20-something thousand people. Mm. Now it's 30,000 people in claiming. So the government costs continue to increase. But they are not meeting their obligation because they think it's something that they look at it now as a liability. But if they think not paying that cost is a liability for the health of the people of the country, to talk about people's health in education and those things, and those are the obligations of a government and a country. And if you're not paying that and then blaming the system because you're not doing what you're supposed to do, that's something else.
But up to when you were Minister of Government and back in from the 2015 general elections, you were still in government for that full term. Yeah. Was the government fulfilling its obligation to NHI at that time? It was
fulfilling its obligation, was paying its costs. It was sometimes the payment were late, but they were paying their share because we understood what the system. They feel that everybody feel that the monies that they collect from the private pool is supposed to cover everybody, but no, there is a huge pool of people that the government has an obligation to. And they need to pay.
So if you were to get back into government now, what would be that step to ensure that this is fixed? Because remember as well, you would have said that the the beneficiaries of NHI, the pool that does not make a contribution, has grown tremendously.
Yes.
What would be the next fix? Because, like we would have established earlier as well, the financial state of the territory is not really known.
Well, that is a good question, but I believe, based on my experiences, that healthcare for a people, no one should be allowed to pass away because they can't get the care they need. And it used to happen, sadly. And, you know, I remember a young guy back in before NHI. The father didn't have the resources, but the young guy needed a valve replacement to survive. The father didn't know where to turn. By the time I got to understand what the father was looking for, I was out of the government, and then I came in and I understand the case. It was too late. And that shouldn't happen in a country that boasting $400 million of revenue. I showed you how yesterday that Mr. Stow, their budget was $72 million, and they were doing a lot with it. Now we got $400 and something million spending annually and can't build a decent healthcare system. Yes, the NHI, there was some tweaking had to be done to it. Let's take, for example, when the system started off was dental care was something your contribution to it was small when you go to the dentist, but it was for purpose. Then the purpose was for everyone to have a dental checkup at least once a year, because based on the research that the economic unit did with their health people, they recognized that some of the diseases that were happening here was through the mouth. And so once you get that and its system stabilizes, then the contributions, your contribution will have to be more. And those things needed to be tweaked, but there was a time frame to tweak them. And by the time the time frame come about, nobody paid attention because we were not there to pay attention.
But one of the things that many persons were not so happy about with the NHI was making it mandatory that every single person must pay in, whether or not you would have had a private insurance already.
You see, because all of that was in the study. It was based on a solidarity kind of system that those who can help must help those who can't. That's how the system, you call it socialist, communist, whatever, but it never stopped you from having another health insurance. The system never tell you that. It tells you that as a people, we need to contribute to the health care of the country. And yes, there were people who were saying this. That's always the case. But eventually it came to being that they understood because they were going to the dentist, they were doing this, and they realized what the benefit was, pooling your resources to benefit the whole society. And at some point in time, you have to think about everybody, because I am only as good as the weakest person that is around me. I can't expect to go to the moon, but the weakest link in the system will break if I go beyond a certain height. So we need to understand that as a people who came from the background that we came from. We have to help those who can't help themselves. We have to build safety nets for those who sometimes not no fault of theirs, falling through a crack. We have to build systems to help people. And the healthcare system is one of those. There's no other way to that I see I can do it. I can buy my own health insurance and go about my business, but that's not our country, society is supposed to live. Some of the best societies that the system was based on is where the Scandinavian countries. You pay more than 50% taxes, but the quality of life, everything, education, healthcare, everything, they take care of, they're making sure that the citizens look after, and their life expectancy was high. So, sometimes we take on some of these systems that are not good for us, and we believe that this is it, but a country can't operate like that.
Okay. So before we wrap up, I want to touch on one other area which you've been really integrally involved in, and that is constitutional reform. Back in 2000 from between 2005 and 2007, you were a part of that.
Yes.
Again, now we're at this juncture where we're going through another, and you are integrally involved, or was integrally. Comparing the two periods, what are some of the gaps you would have observed?
The things that people are asking for today, and you got to, 2007, 2022, 23, the people are more into human rights, they're into a lot of other things that have really evolved since 2007. So they're asking for things like, it's always about the people who they were going to choose to represent them. They're asking for a recall system. They're asking for things like the premier to be elected by all the people. They're asking for the human rights, as they understand them to be, as it evolves in the United Nations and in Britain and the rest of the world. They're asking that these things be made for them, be in the Constitution. They're asking for good quality of life for the people. Back in 2007, we were fighting for more internal self-government, because one of the things that this country has experienced from 1967, every time there is constitutional advancement where the elected officials get more authority to do things, the country explodes economically, educationally, socially. The country just moves forward and much, much faster than when Britain is in control of these things. It happened in 67, it happened in 77, it happened in 2007. We have hit a bump in the road. We were full speed doing stuff that we consider to be good, and the systems to protect us from ourselves, so to speak, were not in place. Okay. And it's those things that got us where we are. And the politics that we were playing, the big country politics, where we were calling each other, we are all corrupt, we most corrupt, who is the most this and that. It make people shine lights into the system and recognize that there are problems in the system. And we know that there were problems in the system that need to be corrected. But collectively, you couldn't get us to do it, so somebody had to come and do it for us. And it's sad, because, like I say, in 2000, in the first graduating class for comprehensive education was 1971. And we have educated thousands and thousands of people, and some of these people have made significant contributions to our country, and some have made significant contribution in the world. So here we are now with all of this, and these little things, these bumps in the road, slowing us down from doing what we need to do. You know, the COI is, yes, you should always have checks and balances, and the Auditor General is our check and that make to ensure that the systems and the laws that we have approved are working in the interests of the country and the people. And you know, to me, she needs to be given. She's a she now. Needs to be given the resources and stuff to make sure that this stuff doesn't happen to us again. But I think we are more than competent and capable of managing our affairs.
Okay.
There's no if no but about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honorable Ronnie, I just scanned. The Honorable just comes out.
My mother called me Ronnie.
Your mommy called you Ronnie.
Ronnie, yeah.
Okay, Ronnie. It was really a great pleasure having this very candid conversation with you, getting into the deepest side of your heart. We now know, where Mama lies with you. In this moment as we close off, I give you your final 30 seconds to speak to the people of the territory.
Thanks, Gaddy. Fellow Virgin Islanders, belongers, residents, voters, our country needs all of us. It needs all of us to get together to build back our country, put our country back force, not we force, but a country force. If the country force, all of us will make progress. And we have to constantly evaluate ourselves, evaluate our systems. There are systems that are needed in this country, to help guide us, to tell us where we are going. There's no doubt in my mind, I pick one just pop out of my mind, is that we need a library and an archive so people can, the young people can, and not an old time system, but a modern system that can capture the imagination and minds of the young people. We need a public library with an archive that our people can go into it and understand where we came from and where we are as a people, and what they need to do as youngsters, what they need to concentrate on in terms of education to help us, to continue to help us build this country.
Okay, and Ronnie W. Skelton, again, thank you for taking time out to sit with us here on The Big Story. Ronnie W. Skelton is an at-large candidate contesting the 2023 general elections here in the Virgin Islands, and you would have heard a bit from him, and he's going to be backed even before that day. Well, I hope. Depends on what time frame that is. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Kathy Richards.